the leaderboard got a lot of flack when it was announced, and people said, "Oh, this is going to be crazy, going to go mental," and it kind of did. As promised, I did 3,700 points, and that was literally because all I had to do was get my new 5 stars up to like level 30 to put me in the lab. After that, I wasn't really bothered with the event. It wasn't really an event for me. Uh, I weren't really bothered with it, really. But you can see there that, that's 149th place. We're just covering 150th place. But you're talking like 110k for the leaderboard. Now, I've no doubt that next leaderboard, when they do it, and they will, there'll be more people going for it and less people. There'll be some people that went in that leaderboard and they will say, I'm not doing that again. It wasn't worth it. Because sadly, when you go in for the leaderboard, you go in for it. And I sort of talked to Soldier on this for a small section, a small bit. And I said, sadly though, when you go in for leaderboard and you go, right, I'm going for it, money can't be an object. Money can't be an issue. You've got to go, listen, I'm aiming for this, and put an aim, whatever it is, and whatever it takes. So when we used to play Transformers Legends, you had to get top 100. Now, if the points doubled, you had to go in double. You had to go in for it. You had no choice. So these sort of events I'm very familiar with in past games, in this game. They've always done a leaderboard event until a couple of years ago. It was a lot of fight back, but they've reintroduced them again because some people wanted them. Don't know who, but we know who now. Um, but yeah, you've got to go all in. You've got to go, I'm going top 150 and not be scared to keep spending. I know that I've seen a few players that were trying to get in the top 150 and got in the top 150 and were like, I've got in the top 150, but now I'm free to play, so I think I'm going to fall out. And you got to think that then you're getting the same rewards as someone that finished at like 1,000 and finished the event maybe. So sadly, you've got to keep going. You can't have a budget. You can have an idea what you're going to spend, but you've got to keep going, guys, if you're going to do this 150. And that's what I don't like, is that it's an open-ended event that could cost you $60 and it could cost you $400, depending on what your target is. So you're looking at about 120k to get in the top 150. And like I said, there were some people that finished in there that will think, I'm not doing that again. No doubt there were people that finished just outside of that that will be thinking, I ain't doing that again. But there'll also be people at 120 that will think, yeah, I quite enjoyed that. And there are people that just finished outside that will go, I'll go a bit bigger next time. So I imagine the scores will stay around the same, maybe increase a little. Now people know what they're getting themselves in for. I mean, they could decrease a bit because people know what they're getting themselves in for. Because no doubt some people might have thought, oh yeah, I'll do 90k and get in the top 150, and then realise it's going to be like 120k. So I imagine the scores will stay there or thereabouts, maybe go a bit higher. That's what I think for the next leaderboard. But that wasn't the shock. I always thought that it would go to around, I'll be honest with you, I thought about 100k for the top 150. So it wasn't a million miles away, but it was a bit more than I thought. But that wasn't the big shock of the leaderboard. The big shock of the leaderboard was actually the fact that first place got 550k points. Now that is absolutely ridiculous. And there's a lot of people talking about this thinking, oh, he cheated. He's hacked it somehow. He can't have done these points. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't done the maths. But Dale did say, listen, I've gone and checked the account. It's all above board. And people are then going like, yeah, it's probably spaceape trying to run the numbers up. Now, listen, I don't think that spaceape are deceitful. Not at all. Not for once have I said that they're probably doing things on purpose and sort of like, edging their bets in the game, things like that. Do I think spaceape are doing things behind the scenes to push scores up? No. Do I think that they're, untrustworthy? No. Do I think they're badly organised? Yes. That's all my frustration. My frustration is not that they're deceitful. My frustration is that they're unorganised. That's what I've always been critical of. And yes, they are very poorly organised at times. Last minute, we talked about the endurance bot just before and said how late it is. the 40th anniversary, how they're trying to fix it and sort it now when they knew it was the 40th anniversary. Surely 6 months ago, surely they saw this coming, being a Transformers game. It should have been all been sorted in advance, or even 3 months ago, or 2 months ago. They just lack a bit of foresight and lack a bit of, you know, a bit of insight into, the game and what they need to do month by month. We've talked about obviously this saga changing constantly, similar events every saga. Again, just a bit of poor planning. But listen, that is not a spaceape account. I'm telling you guys. Now, people sort of ask me, what I think happened there. Listen, it could be just one guy just smashing this event out. But I imagine that's like 16 hours a day for 3 days. I imagine. And listen, people have done that in the past. Dr. Claw, who's one of my members, who's in the chat here and there, has done similar. Now, it was less than that, but this is back before it was Zone 15 and 16, before Ruination, when it used to be Golden Lagoons, and you were coining 2 bots, so it was more costly. So I think his score was a lot more of an achievement. But what you can do to achieve a score like that, and I'm not advising this, I'm just giving you a bit of insight into how it's achievable and how he's maybe done this score without cheating, is you can actually share your account with people and play it all year round. So I could easily, from the UK, say to Grind Time, I've got, listen, Grind Time, I'm going to play in the morning when I'm awake and when you're in bed. And then when I go to bed, you take over and you play through the night. Now that would probably work better in maybe Australia, because of other sides of the world, and you could share the account. Now for me, I don't see the appeal in that, because then one of you is getting the rewards, the other isn't, unless both of you play the same account and you just communicate it. But I don't see the point in that. But that is how you could score a score like that and play for 24 hours a day. Because someone said, like, you can't play for 24 hours a day. You probably could. All you need to do is log into the game on Google Play, really, on 2 different devices. But then I'm sure that Dale can go and look at that and see where the game's been logged into, what areas. I don't think it's against terms of services, because then you've got to try and prove that it wasn't that person. Because then you could say that he was in the US and he flew somewhere, but I don't know. But that is probably some way you could probably do them points. But even I am struggling to think how that is even possible, unless you are playing sort of non-stop. Now, there are other ways, but I'm not going to advertise or even talk about that on stream, because it's borderline cheating. So I'm not even going to talk about it. But there are ways you could probably score them kind of points. But literally, doing that, money'd have to be no option. Literally. So the guy spent a lot of money on the game. And I know that people don't like leaderboards and people hate leaderboards. Me too. But if you don't like leaderboards, don't compete. Don't get annoyed by it. Don't get frustrated by it. Just do what I do. Just score the minimum. Score whatever you want to score and leave it at that. And don't go and compete. And you know what? If this guy wants to go and throw $500 at the game, you know what? It's $500 in the bank for spaceape for some content that I don't want, not bothered about. He can have the content, And you've got to think that, sadly, the joke's on him this time round, because the content was quite poor. I did a review of the combat, and it was pretty crappy. So you got to think that he spent, probably, I say $500, might even be more than that, maybe less. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I saw a lot though. He spent that money on a combat that's not very good. So what has the rest of the players lost? Not really. I get it's exclusive content that people can't get. I might be frustrated by that, but it's going to come in a batch in 6 to 9 months' time. Go and get it then. Don't be too disheartened, guys, by these sort of scores, things like that. It's an option for the absolute whales to go and spend as much as they want to and go and do an event. If there's one event a month or a saga that's like this, then I'm not too bothered. I will sit it out and just not bother. I get that some players might be frustrated, they're not going to get the top content, but sadly this is the way these games go sometimes, that some of the top content is only available to the really big whales, and it comes available to everyone else further down the line. So I'm not against these leaderboards, especially when I see scores like that. I'm not going to lie, when I see scores like that, I look at it and go, yeah, I'm not going to bother. Dead simple. When I see scores around 80k, it kind of encourages more and more people to do it, and that pushes scores up, and people get annoyed and maybe leave the game. So when I see scores that are astronomical, I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I'm just saying, listen, guys, don't get too discouraged by it. Don't get too disheartened. If the whales want to whale, let them whale.